All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the District of Brown Deer School Board meeting, Tuesday, October 24th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:04 p.m. Verification of public notice. Meeting has been publicly noticed. Verification of a quorum. We have 6 of our 7 board members in attendance this evening. Approval of the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I will make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Peterson.
Peterson, okay. All right, any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, raise hand and or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries unanimously 6-0. And the reading of our vision statement to provide a rigorous education that empowers our students to confidently navigate in our ever-changing world, and our mission statement through the lens of excellence, equity, and engagement. We are dedicated to empowering every student with the essential skills to build a foundation for lifelong learning. Now, with that being said, today is our regular board meeting, so we do have public comments. Public comments have to be an item that is on our agenda for this evening, and you will have 3 minutes. If there is anyone that is out there, one of our residents that has a comment, you will say your name and your address. We will be monitoring the chat. And so if you do want to make a public comment, please go to the chat and say that you would like to make a comment and have your name and your address when that time comes about. Okay. So now with that being said, let's go to number 2, our district communication, our district administrators report, Dr. Kelsey Brown.
Good evening, board members and community members. Before I begin with the district administrator's report, I'd like for us to bring up a picture of Ms. Macon. I received a letter from the Wisconsin Association of School Boards in regard to Ms. Macon. It says, "Dear Dorothea, congratulations, you have achieved level 2 in the Wisconsin Association of School Boards Member Recognition Program. The WASB recognizes board members for their efforts in leadership and board development through our member recognition program. Points are awarded to school board members for their attendance at or involvement in various WASB programs and events. Ms. Macon was recognized on Tuesday, October 10th at the NBC Suites in Brookfield for her participation and recognition in their program. So I thought it appropriate to recognize, and she has her pen on this evening. And so if we would recognize, this is an opportunity to recognize Ms. Macon for her efforts as a board member. As you all know, this work is not easy. And it comes with a definite commitment. And so Dorothea, here's Dorothea receiving her pen from Dan Rossmiller, our new executive director, last week. And so congratulations, Ms. Macon. Two words?
You know what? I really had a great time. It's kind of weird. I'm a sufferer, of course. But at any rate, we had a great time, and I just really enjoyed gleaning the information that I learned about being a better board member, a better community member, and it's just a lot of fun. The interesting part is that there's not a lot of minority representation, and I really would like to see a little bit more of that, because most of the times I'm the only Black person in the room. There are no Hispanics, there are no Asians. I'm the only Black in the room. And so and I'm if you guys, everybody's life is busy, but it just would be really nice for us to really show up and show out. Dr. Kerr was there, and her entire board was there as well. And so they were acknowledged as far as her being able to get her whole team there. I think she has 5 people on the board, and so they were all there. So hopefully in the future we'll be able to do that as well. Just all show up and just be present, and and just show them that we're a force to be reckoned with. We're a different district. We're one of the few schools in the state of Wisconsin that has achieved integration or the right balance on it. And I think we need to celebrate that and really, really be present and let people know that we're graduating 98 to 100% of the kids in our district we have a lot of things to celebrate, and we're Team Brown Deer, and I'm going to be trying to learn as much as I can so that I can be the best board member. Well, maybe not better than everybody, but one of the best. So, or best with the best school guys. Oh, okay. Thanks. Yeah, just want to be on the team. Right. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Congratulations. All right, just a few updates from the district administrator's report. We have a PO day coming up this Friday, so no school for our students. Parent teacher conferences went really well last week, and just in conversations with talking to some of our teachers when parents were not signed up for sessions or they hadn't arrived yet. Looking at teacher schedules, they were back to back with parents signing up. So that's a really good sign in terms of parental involvement. A few other things that I'm working on. I learned today that, as you all know, I put forth a bill with Dan Canola's office to increase the teacher pipeline by giving greater access to our paraprofessionals to become teachers.
All
So I learned today that bill is gaining some traction in Madison. It has been circulated to everyone, so they have their eyes on it. Waiting for feedback from DPI. There are a couple representatives from Commonwealth and Kenosha who are in support of the bill. And so once the legislators give the green light, then it will gain even more traction. So we will see what happens with that. So that's the good news. I've not navigated that space before, but now I've learned how slow it takes. It goes at a snail's pace, but that's good news to increase our teacher pipeline. The other bill that I've worked with Dan Canola to author is the thought around open enrollment for teachers who work in districts who would like their children to attend the same district. That's in the early phases of the conversation. Not sure where that one's going to go yet, but it is gaining some traction as well. As I've indicated, teachers have come to me and asked if that's a possibility, and right now it's a no because of the state statutes and the way that open enrollment currently exists. So we'll see what happens with that. Looking at it as a way to attract and retain teachers, great teachers for our school district. So those are two bills that will have the Brown Deer name on them. So we will see what happens, and I'll keep posted on that. In addition, just everyone should know that our next meeting with BDEA around negotiations is November 7th. So I would like everyone to know that. And then also we are in a partnership, we are part of the SWSA Alliance, and the executive director, Faith Vanderhorst, who used to be a board member in Menominee Falls, is the current executive director, and she's stepping down. And so we will be looking for a new executive director for SWSA next year in March. So that's a few updates. Lots of things going on, wonderful work going on in the buildings, and we'll continue to forge ahead and do great work.
All right. Good job. And that's the last one. All right. Good job on working on those bills. I actually got the and get a lot of different emails and stuff from SWSA and everything else in relationship to that, actually trying to go up the pipeline and everything else like that. So we just gotta hope that our Senate and our House wants to be able to adopt it, because I'm quite sure that our governor will definitely want to. Yeah, definitely. So congratulations on that. All right. So now let's go on to our item number 3, our public comments. Again, individuals wishing to be heard need to state their name and their Brown Deer address. There needs to be an item that is on our agenda to be able to make your comment. Again, 3 minutes in relationship to that. Okay. So do we have anybody that's online or anybody that would like to make a comment?
John Becker Schreiber, 8041 North Sherman Boulevard.
Okay, well, hey, one more time.
Yes.
Hey, they gotta write this down, so let's go.
So John, J-O-N, and Beckett Schreiber. And the address is 8041 North Sherman Boulevard. So it's about school safety. So I know it's on the agenda and there's been discussions about metal detectors, and so I wanted to make comments about that. There's a little research, I only did cursory research, but the two concerns, the first one, which is the one that you often will hear, is the impact on student health. And, you know, we had an incident and our students are already geared to report about those incidents because that's how it was brought to the teacher's attention, from what I understand. It was the middle schooler came up, it's like, hey, this is bad. So speaking with my high schoolers, they say that's the general feeling among all the students. Like, there's other things that, you know, we're not going to talk about, like I skipped a class, something like that, but anything that's about safety, they speak up on immediately. So, yeah, yes. And then,
I didn't know we were at the poetry reading.
And then the second thing is that, in my research that I was looking up, there's no guarantee that a metal detector would give actual safety. Unless someone's using it 24/7, and we have people staffing it 24/7, and somehow have it patrolling the outside grounds as well, and keeping things from maybe coming in through a window or whatnot. So we give this heightened tension, but the benefit and the cost would very likely outweigh anything that could come out of that. So those were the things that I wanted to bring up. I think that I would like the board to take into consideration when thinking about these things. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And points well taken. You know, some of the same thoughts that we've all discussed in relationship to the thing in relationship to safety and metal detectors and everything else like that. Hence the reason why we wanted to put out the survey and just kind of find out what people wanted, yay or nay, and if no, were there any other alternatives or any other options that they could think of or whatever have you. But thank you so much for your comment. And of course, the board has no choice but to listen because you're right here with us. So we'll take all of those things into consideration before making a determination in relationship to whether or not to have the metal detectors in. All right, thank you very much. Do we have anyone else that would have a question? I don't know if anybody else is on, or I mean a comment, I'm so sorry. That's online or in person.
You know what, it's just really good to know that the kids are self-actualized enough that they are willing to talk with you guys and that they have a good relationship with the, you know, staff or the teachers, that they're willing to talk to you about something and not worry about being snitches. So thank you for sharing that.
All right, thank you very much. Do we see anything else? Is there anything else on there, Ms. Turner?
I just admitted someone else, so into the meeting.
But there's nothing in the chat.
Just give them a quick second, or you just let them in. They may need to know in relationship to if they did have a comment, public comment, and they need to address that in the chat with their name and their address. And remember, it needs to be a comment that is part of the agenda. So that's for the individuals that are potentially coming on right now. So I'd like to be able to give them an opportunity if that was the reason they're coming. Thirty seconds. Okay, let's go on to our item number 4, our consent agenda. Someone like to make a motion?
Dr. Pilo, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, including the minutes of the September 12th, 2023 meeting, special board meeting, September 26th, 2023 regular board meeting, the September 28th, 2023 budget hearing and annual meeting, the schedule of voucher payments via check, ACH and wire transfers in the amount of $1,201,060.36 in the general checking account, in the food service account, including funds 10, 21, 27, 39, 47, 49, 50, 72, and 80, and the October 24th, 2023 school safety drill update as presented.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Ashley. Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Bacon. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor will raise hand and or aye. Any opposed? You can see none, motion carries unanimously 6-0. All right, let's go on to our item number 5A. Items for discussion, consideration, and possible board action, approval of new hires. Mr. Clement?
Yes, we have two new hires this evening. We have Jennifer Petruska, who will be joining us as our elementary school gifted and talented coordinator, and Robin.
Coordinator or teacher?
Teacher. She's a teacher,
Okay.
but she's handling gifted and talented. So I guess you want to use the term gifted and talented teacher. That's fine. It is a teaching contract.
All right.
And Robin Leduc as our ELL teacher at the middle high school.
All right. Would someone like to make a motion for Jennifer?
Dr. Vito, I'd like to make a motion to approve the hiring of Jennifer Petruska as an elementary school gifted and talented teacher for the 2023-2024 school year.
All right, motion made. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Z. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? And you see none, all in favor will raise hand and or aye. Any opposed? And you see none, motion carries unanimously 6-0. So we welcome Jennifer to the Brown Deer family. All right, would someone like to make a motion for the hiring of Robin?
Dr. Vito, I'd like to make a motion to approve the hiring of Robin Leduc as a middle high school English language learners ELL teacher for the 2023-2024 school year.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor will raise hand and or aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries unanimously 6-0. We'd like to welcome Robin to the Brown Deer family. All right, let's go on to item number B. Mr. Clement, resignation.
Yeah, no resignation.
Thank you, thank you. We will take that one. All right. So let's go on to our item 5C, discussion of quarterly staff retention report. Would that be Dr. Kelsey Brown or a human resource? Hello, Ms. Jackson.
Hello.
All right.
Sound like you get my say.
Hey, sorry, Ms. Adler.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Sharon Jackson. I'm the Human Resources Manager for the School District of Brown Deer. And today I'll be presenting to you the retention data report that's quarterly for the months of July, August, and September of 2023. So all that separated from school district, I sent the exit survey to 10 teachers total. The results of that were that 4 emails bounced back to me because the email addresses were ineffective, closed, or for some reason, it may not have been a good email address to them. We did have a low participation rate with the exit surveys. There was only 1 person that completed the exit survey. We did have 9 that did not respond. And we did have to remember that the exit surveys are also optional. So it's not required, it's not mandatory that they be completed. All right, so the response data. So I'm only going to be presenting information for the 1 teacher that did respond. I did make some modifications to this exit survey that the person should not directly identify because it's supposedly it is anonymous when they complete it. Okay, so the 1 person that did respond, she completed it at 100%. It took her 2 minutes and 58 seconds to complete it. She did not skip. She or he, I should say, did not skip any of the questions. And so how this works is that the exit survey is presented to their email address. They do receive nudges to keep the exit survey sent via email 1 day after the initial survey has been emailed. We'll get into the results. What was your job title? Answer: teacher. How long have you been employed by the School District of Brown Deer? 1 to 3 years. What is your primary reason for leaving the district? Wages. What was the most satisfying part of your job? Colleagues. Did you receive enough training or to do your job effectively? The answer is sometimes. Did you receive insightful and constructive feedback from your supervisor or manager regarding your performance? The answer is no. What aspects of leadership and management could be improved? Answer, follow through. Would you recommend the school district for employment? Answer is no. Please let us know how we are doing. Your feedback is very important as we strive to make your experience as an employee a good one. That is just in closing statement. And as requested by the board, I did open up the exit survey to receive additional feedback and comments from separating teachers. The comment that was made, well, I was grossly underpaid. Moving to another district, I got a 32% raise. Your pay structure needs to be altered. Teacher input wasn't taken seriously by the district heads. Oh. That ended that survey for the one responded.
All right, board members, questions? I know it's only one, so, you know, again, I think there's actually ultimately, it's good questions or whatever have you. You know, we always appreciate any feedback that we get or whatever, so, but I know you said that we did had the surveys like the day after they completed the last day?
Yes, and then they get one additional nudge to complete it if they don't complete it within a 24-hour period. So they will get an email that automatically nudges them to complete it. And again, it is optional. It's voluntary that they answer. It's not mandatory that they complete it.
And so the email we use is their personal email, or we still try to use the school email address?
So what happens is if the school email has not been taken down, then I will use the school email address. However, I do default to their personal email address if the termination process hasn't happened. When the termination process happens, it disables their email addresses, and I have to use secondary email address. And so in this case, there were quite a few that didn't have a valid email address. And that was only because during their onboarding, when we were collecting demographic information, some of them didn't have accurate information that they had labeled on their application or their background checks.
Okay. Board members, questions for Ms. Jackson?
That was going to be my question, just about how we disseminate the survey, and if for whatever reason their district email is canceled, is there a backup email that they list that you can send to, so that we're able to, you know, just effectively connect with those individuals and give them an opportunity to complete the survey?
I'll also add that you know, that secondary email address comes when basically they get onboarded, and there's no reason for them to update it with us. You know, anytime we send them anything, it's their district email. So if they, you know, have a Gmail account that they change, you know, there's no reason for them to update it with us. So if then they leave, it's no longer valid. You know, there's nothing we would know about that unless they gave us up-to-date contact information if they were leaving, to make sure that that's another thing that we can send to them. So.
The one email address that I did collect the information from actually did not go through around your email address. It was a secondary email.
Is that how we got this one?
Yes, that is correct.
Is there any way, certainly there's time added on to a question like this, but is there any way on their last week of work or whatever that we could manually hand them the survey, ask them optionally to complete the survey and give it back to you, as opposed to handling it electronically, as we're unfortunately seeing the results of that avenue? So are there, even if that's not the avenue, have there been other avenues considered to try and get more input on the survey as a whole?
So what happened before is that the exit surveys were presented to a separated employee manually, and the qualitative and the quantitative data was not there. So I believe I think it was a year ago or so that it was requested that we probably collect the data results electronically, which would give you a little bit more more of a bigger picture of, retention data.
I just have another question, Dr. Beal, and that is, so the idea is to collect this information, and as you collect this information, is it being stored in like a database base of some sort, right? Like we can kind of track it over a period of time, and then secondly, I just want to thank you just for continuing to disseminate this and collecting that information.
Thank you. So this, the engine that we use is SurveyMonkey.
Okay.
So that collects the data results, but at some time it will archive and probably disappear after a certain amount of time that we have collected the data. So what I typically will try to do is kind of extract that data ahead of time so that if it does archive or go away, that we still are able to reference past separation exit surveys from employees.
Let me ask a question. Would it be helpful or could it be, I mean, I know it's really kind of hard for people to sometimes say exactly what it is that they want to say, but when someone brings in a letter to say that they're considering leaving or whatever, if they're like, one question that you can kind of ask them, you know, just kind of, hey, what's constructive that can help us?
That is the last question. Remember, in the closing of the exit survey, you and the employee, a former employee or a separated employee, does have the option to add additional feedback, and that is where they can scribe whatever it is that they would like us to know moving forward as a district. Or, you know, they provide comments or questions, or just engaging a little bit more in the exit survey. And what happens is if there are questions, typically I will lean in to an employee to gather more information or get a better understanding as to what it is they are trying to say.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll just also add too, is you do remember that this particular quarter, 2 months of it is summer. So, many staff members have turned in, their materials for, at the end of the summer. And if they make a decision and change in July and August, they may have very little physical contact with the district after that point. And so it's different than when someone resigns in the middle of the school year, at the end of the school year. So that's probably part of why the turnout was lower at this point than you may see at different points.
All right. All I'll say is, if there's any other way or any other system you could think of to get in place and stuff, so we can probably get a little bit better than 10%. When we get the feedback part, come up with whatever you can think of would be, that would be a good idea to do it and stuff like that, because, we want the information. We want to know, other reasons why individuals may leave the district and go other places and stuff like that. So.
And if I could add, this is a unique situation because it's a very low participation rate. I believe the last presentation that I did, probably just about 75% of the separating employees did participate. I'm not quite sure how to identify why there was such a low participation rate at this time. I'm not quite sure.
It looked like it may have been a lot to do with the validity of the email address.
Right.
So another potential way that you could do it too is if you had a cell phone number to text them the link to the survey.
Yes, I did recently enable the SurveyMonkey engine to, now I can send out QR codes via text message. So I did enable that.
Okay.
So that I'll try to collect the data the next quarterly report that I present to you guys.
All right. Thank you very much. Any board members, any other questions? No. Thank you, Ms. Jackson. All right. Let's go on to our next item is approval of the 23-24 budget. Mr. Clemick.
Here we go. So this has been obviously many months' work. You've seen a variety of versions of this. So I'm not going to, go through everything in huge detail. We've talked about something, but I do want to share with you some of the last minute things and kind of publicly state them as well that have occurred and that have kind of changed a little bit of the dynamics since when we had last met at the annual meeting just, a month ago, basically. So jump ahead to our budget highlights. Again, we did talk about the fact that this year schools will provide an additional $325 per student revenue limit authority increase both years of the budget. So this year, it did lead to an increase for us of about $1.2 million. We did see additional state aid provided to help offset property tax increases. So that went up significantly. However, we learned that I think there was something that went on with Milwaukee Public Schools last year where there was an issue with equalization aid. And so as a result, this time around, DPI corrected things. So almost every school district that I saw in our southeastern region when we were doing our monthly conference call, and the question was posed, how many of you saw a lower equalization aid than what you had on your July 1st estimate? And everybody raised their hand. So we were expecting like 14.3 million and we were down to 14.2. So we saw a little bit of a drop. The anticipation is that that correction has been done now. And so next year it will go back up. But again, this year it just meant that property taxes are going up a little bit more for that. We are still dealing with obviously a challenging job market situation. Inflation is still an issue. And as Dr. Brown mentioned, we're still in the process of working through the salary negotiation process with BDA. So as of now, we're still talking about what we've committed to as a district, the 3.5% increase doing the step movement and the cell movement increase we were talking about. Right now budgeted for about $500,000 to go across the board. And we do still have a few open positions. 2 of them were filled earlier tonight by your approval, but we do still have a few more that are open. And so some of that will involve some savings, or potentially there are some ancillary services we're going to need to provide to make up for those openings. So I don't know exactly how much we'll have in savings, so that kind of remains a little fluid. And then, so our tax levy this year is basically flat. It is scheduled to go up very, very slightly by 0.25%. The reason is, again, that the operational tax levy is increasing because of that $325 increase, a little bit less equalization aid than we were talking about on July 1st. We do have that $241,000 property tax chargeback from last year that we had to refund the village. We're able to retax for that. There was the elimination of high poverty aid in the 23-25 budget, which is about $90,000. That again goes on the tax levy. And the biggest surprise for us was the significant increase in the number and the amount of the voucher students that we had. We're now over $1 million in voucher expenses. We do have the ability to tax for that. So this is basically a wash expense. We tax the exact amount that we're going to pay out, but it does increase property taxes. So that's $300,000 more that we are taxing this year than we would have had to if those numbers hadn't increased. So again, we're basically looking at a flat tax rate overall. This will not allow us to do any kind of defeasance or any kind of over levying that we've done in the past. So we've taken advantage of what we could. And we'll see what happens down the road. But at this point now, we are just taxing the max of what we can and what we need to do for debt service. And then it's just a recognition that that we are going to be talking about this fiscal cliff, as almost all school districts will next year, just to prepare for those conversations that we're going to have. So basically, I fill out some paperwork this week, but I set the tax levy and take care of that, and then I start working on the 24-25 budget. And starting to look ahead at what that's going to be. So we'll be working through that. But we are anticipating, some big money that's going to disappear next year. ESSER 3 funding will expire. This after school grant that we have will expire at the end of the school year. A tax chargeback won't be there. So we will have a revenue drop. And the question will be, what savings can we generate within our budget, or what additional revenue could become available in some other way that will allow us to maintain the level of services. And obviously, those services will cost more next year when we're talking about whatever the staff increases would be, whatever transportation and health insurance and all those other pieces will still be going up regardless as well. So a lot of conversation that will happen over the next several weeks.
Kevin, question. Now, the 241 surplus, that's what you're trying to look for 24-25.
I'm trying to make sure that we at least end with that much of because that money is gone. Like, there's nothing we're going to do for that. So if I spend that money on something that's ongoing, that's another $250,000 we have to cut next year. So I'm trying not to do that. That is something we're making up for money we had to spend last year. So I'm trying to say, like, can we at least come in with that much of a surplus?
All right.
That way we protect ourselves a little bit.
So for 24-25, because of the extra 325 is about $600,000 of extra revenue that's coming in. But like for this year already, when you talk about the 3.5 for teacher increase of what, that's $500,000. All right, so for intents purposes, then with the $600,000 is being eaten up already, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, we always look at what the actual cost of salaries is, you know, like, transition, we don't keep everybody, but when there are transitions, we do have retirees. You know, we have 5 people that are retiring next year, and will there be any changes in the costs, you know, with replacing those individuals? We're gonna look at all sorts of different options to look at how we can fit into next year's budget. And it may be a situation that, because this is part of this drop off with ESSER funding, the board may decide to run a deficit next year, you know, especially if we do run a little bit more of a surplus. We're going to talk about fund balance in a few minutes, and you can see where we are at. So that maybe the board make a conscious decision to absorb some of that cost for 1 year and then figure out, you know, what the next year looks like. It's a new budget. You know, other things may happen. We'll have to take a look at what the potential is. But that's, again, a conversation that'll happen probably today.
Right. So even if we try to increase the tax levy, it really would make a difference and stuff because we've got the equalization money that's coming in from the state, and it's kind of, everything's got to add up to like 100%, right?
Right.
So even if we did that, it wouldn't make a difference.
No, I mean, because the tax levy is one part of this conversation, but overall, how much revenue do you have? That's, you know, how much you can spend. So, because there's a lot of things that are outside of the revenue limit. The revenue limit just being basically is what the control is of property taxes. So, what it will look like next year, it's quite possible that there's going to be an increase in aid that will make up for where we are. And so if there's, you know, a $500,000 increase in aid, everything else being equal, our property taxes go down $500,000.
But we just can't figure out a way to come up with some more money actually come into the district, because whatever it is, it's.
Well, I mean, yeah, we'd have to, you know, grants and other things are possibilities. We'd have to talk about what our target is looking like next year, and, you know, what the revenue we anticipate it to be and what that looks like. And then we'd have to have some other conversations. We shared with the board a month ago about the potential facility needs that are coming in the near future. And so these are conversations we'll have to have, but we'll start them relatively quickly in this new budget cycle. This one is, so, and again, what we do this year, you know, if we can run lean in some areas and still end up with somewhat of a surplus, that's money that we can kind of set aside and still use next year if we have to go, you know, do a 1 year deficit or something like that to.
And we can use that money towards whatever we need, whether it's salary increases, whatever, having to worry about whether or not insurance is going up, transportation, all of those, right?
So again, my goal would be that at the end of this fiscal year coming up, that in June, we have at least a $241,000 surplus. That's kind of what we're targeting. So we're not quite there yet with the numbers that you see, but we have a lot of unknowns at this point. So my goal is to work toward that, make sure we're running the budget in a way that gets us close to that. Just note, I did update our executive summary with our new vision statement. So thank you very much. Now part of our document going forward. I will jump ahead to just a reminder of our student counts. We did have a small drop this year. So we went from 1652 to 1629. So that was part of why we didn't see another extra jump in revenue. What happens next year may change. We'll have to see. We are still at a point where we have about 230 open enrollment out students, which is part of that. We did end up with
Is that not Springfield? You got it. Right there on the floor.
He wasn't a tax-paying citizen.
That's fine. No, I totally understand.
Take them outside.
All right. Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem. I was concerned it was my presentation.
And we were in alternate data.
So again, this year we ended up with our membership FTE of 1,766, which was basically pretty close to where we were at the annual meeting. Because of the 3-year average, it put us exactly where we were at the annual meeting for our 3-year average, which is part of why we saw that large jump, was because that our 2020-2021 year, where we had our low point, that fell off of our 3-year average, so that's taken care of. Just a reminder again, on the open enrollment side, we do have our 52 students coming in, which is slightly under what we had planned on. We had a few that didn't come back this year, so we did have that opening seats. We will have a conversation over the next several months as to what the board wants to do for 2024-25. You have to make that decision in January whether we want to open up additional seats, and those will be some conversations that we'll have. And again, looking at the open enrollment out numbers, we're budgeting for a continued increase. Again, these numbers get reported on a daily basis to API. There hasn't been significant change since the annual or since the third Friday count, but last year there was a big shift after that. So we're going to keep watching and see where we're at. So I do have some money set aside to deal with open enrollment out students at that number.
So you're guesstimating 232?
No, this is what it currently is. Right now we are at, or when I last checked it on the 16th, but it's about, I have $150,000 extra money sitting there in open enrollment out. Right now we're at about 2.1 million. I have 2.25 million set aside so that we have some play if in fact, the number, like I said, the number continued to climb last year. We'll see what happens this year. So I'm just.
So when will you know for certain the numbers of students? Or do you
Kids can open enroll. Some districts do the alternate application process, so they can basically enroll at any point in time. They could be, somebody could move from Milwaukee into Brown Deer in February and then immediately open enroll back into the Milwaukee school that maybe they came from. And so now all of a sudden they're an open enrollment student and we have to send money to MPS on behalf of it. It's prorated. But so we continue to watch that. It'll stabilize at a certain point where it may go up a couple of students here and there, but it's this initial period where some school districts are a little bit slower in reporting data. When you said last year, we had 199 on the third Friday count and we ended up with 240. This year we had 230 on the third Friday count. So whether that just meant they reported better and that they'll just trickle in now, or whether we still have 30 more kids coming, that's what I don't know. And that's why I'm keeping the extra money. And hopefully by January, maybe we'll see where we kind of level off. And if that's the case, then we can free up some of that money. If we need to do other things. So then we go to the revenue limit projection. And again, this is what we're talking about. The increase in the base revenue per member, the $325 increase. We did increase our average. So we are seeing a $1.2 million increase in our revenue limit without exemptions. Then you add in a couple things, this $241,000 for the refunded taxes. Students that weren't counted in last year's revenue limit for open enrollment is another $300,000. And then the voucher exemptions, that was the big jump where we went from $718,000 to $1,039,000. And then just showing you where our revenue limit over time with our student FTE has gone. So we have seen, a really big jump this year. It will jump again next year a little bit extra because again, even if we stay flat where we are now, it'll still go up a little bit because again, we're dropping off a year that's been lower. If it goes down, it may not go up as much. So we'll start, when we start projecting next year, we'll see what we think is going to happen. So
What's the voucher exemptions? Is that again?
That is the amount of money supporting the choice program, the Wisconsin school choice program. So the state, we don't have any sense of how many students there are, or we don't know who the students are, where they're going. On the revenue limit worksheet, which I share with you guys in board documents so you can see the fun that I get to have in Excel. They just plunk in a number for us to say, here's the regular education students, here's the special needs students. It adds up to $1,040,000, and we don't have to tax for it, but we're gonna end up spending for it. They do give you the option of taxing for it, so we can raise our revenue so that we can tax for the amount that we send. And that's what we do, because as of October 15th, if I had to cut the budget by $300,000 to make up for that, that would be nearly impossible at that point. So this is the amount of money that we're sending. We send it back to the state. State distributes in schools participating in the choice program, and these are students who live in Brown. They live in Brown Deer, but they're going to private schools through the choice program.
So that's on top of the 2.1 million that we're doing for open
enrollment, right? Because that's public. So and see the thing is, we know those students. We have names. We know where they live. We know exactly who they are. We can contact them. Private school, we don't know the number of kids, and because every grade band has a different amount, it's impossible for me to take this number and try to extrapolate what it is, because it varies from $8,000 to $11,000 depending on, or $13,000 if you're in special needs. It just varies depending on which grade band you're in as to how much money the school is getting for that student. So
And not to say that I don't trust our government, but how do we know that they're tagging us for the right kids even?
we don't.
So we never get a detailed report on how they've come up with the dollar for our district.
We do not. Again, I think their theory is that because it's their theory, but they do give you the ability to raise taxes for it. But it is, and that's what I'm going to show you, which I added a page just to kind of show the story of the way that the choice program has increased over the years, where we went from in 2019-20, 4% of our Fund 10 levy was tied to the amount of money that was going for voucher students, which was $386,000 at that point. This year, 12.6% of our operational levy is going to pay for the choice program. So it's, tripled in 5 years. It's a larger percentage. So, and it just means that the taxpayers of Brown Deer are supporting that program. Now, the counter would be that you have a number of families that live in Brown Deer, pay taxes, have always sent their kids to private schools, and they've never seen a benefit from it. So now they're finally getting a benefit from it. So there's something, but it's not an insignificant amount of money for us. And when you have conversations about, or when you hear stories about like potentially what's happening or what will happen on the former Cardinal Stritch campus, that's going to be a massive choice school. And where does that pull from? And does that, add additional seats from our area? All the North Shore basically is looking at that as a situation that's probably going to impact us all.
And then I think it behooves us to really keep our eye on that as we begin to look at the budget moving forward.
Because if you look at those numbers and stuff, and the math I did, it ended up being almost like $2.7 million.
So I just want to say this out loud, because I'm following along on here. I could probably go to the document, but so we're with choice, supporting that choice program and with open enrollment out, we're at about 3.2 million outside of the district. And our total budget is how much?
This is right now it's 27.
So more than
About 10%, more than 10%.
Our budget is pushing out.
Of your operational funds, and obviously you're now again with the open enrollment students that you're getting revenue for, you do make a little bit on them. I mean, you raise more per student than we send out. Well, I should qualify that. If a regular education student, our per student cost is a little higher than what we send out, so we make a few $1,000s. But with a special education student, that's at $13,000, so that's actually a loss for us because we don't make enough on the $12,500 that we pull in. So, and again, we don't have any say in those students. So obviously, whatever we can do to help prevent folks or encouraging folks, I guess, to stay in our district and not go out in one of these other programs, then it is more revenue that stays here in our school district. But we'll continue to track that. That obviously that increase was significant this year. So, and then briefly, then with the revenue limit, that lends itself to where our tax levy would be. The general equalization aid number, as I mentioned, was down a little bit, so it's at $14.2 million. We do get $1 million in exempt computer aid. We do get some money for the exempt personal property tax. So the total state aid is about $15.3 million, which when you subtract our revenue limit with exemptions minus the state aid, that gives you how much you can tax. And so this year, our tax levy, our limited revenue tax levy or under the revenue limit is $8,231,065. That's using all of that. So it shows it as a 17% increase from last year because it was a large difference. And then, so just to show you again how the state aid and the tax levy has gone historically over the last 8 years, as you see here, or 7 years, the tax levy portion was significantly larger than the equalization aid portion was. It's basically flipped now. And so equalization aid is a much larger part of our budget. So we are a much more significant part of our revenue than it was before. And then when we look at all of our levies, In total, usually we have 3 that we tax for. Fund 10, we just mentioned, so that's the 8,231,065. Referendum debt for Fund 39, our scheduled payment through our debt schedule is for $2.88 million. Fund 80, usually I would recommend a Fund 80 levy, but again, with our change we had to go through with our auditors where our school resource officer is no longer funded through Fund 80 and we moved over to Fund 10. As a result of that, that's $70,000 that comes off the levy. I have a pretty significant fund balance of almost $200,000 in there, so I'm not going to tax for it this year. We'll just let fund balance start to go down, and we'll have to look at it in a follow-up year. Next year, the middle school after-school program would come back into Fund 80 this year. It's covered by that grant, so there just aren't a lot of expenses in Fund 80 this year, so we'll just kind of let it go down, and that helps us by not adding that Fund 80 levy. That keeps that property tax levy, total property tax, at a much smaller rate. So you can see the total levy difference. It was $11,084,000 last year. This year it's $11,111,000, $27,000 difference, or 0.25%.
And just to kind of go back to what was said earlier, we can't continue to collect that 47 cents because it has to equal out at the end of the year. So the reduction in the levy, we can't keep it the same. Because
the mill rate, you're talking about the mill rate?
Yeah.
The mill rate changes for 2 reasons. One is what the levy is, and then also equalized value. So it's because it compares how much the village increased in value. So if the tax levy stays exactly the same, but the village doubled in value, your mill rate would be cut in half. So they work in tandem. So you can't necessarily say that that's all because of what it's really saying is because our taxes are going up slightly, but the mill rate's going down 5%, is that the value of the village increased more than the levy is doing. So it's basically, that's what's causing that mill rate to go down. Now, as I say this to everybody, because everybody's going to ask me, does that mean your taxes are going down, up or down? No, it doesn't mean anything because everybody's property is a different story. The reality of our village is that our commercial property is significantly undervalued compared to residential property. I know from personal experience that my home shot up in value this year with the assessment, which I wasn't excited about, doing absolutely nothing to it. So I'm expecting my bill to go up, even though, especially on the school side, even though we're basically, again, asking for almost the same amount of money we've asked for last year. But we can't control how that money is dispersed amongst the village. So I'm guessing that most residential taxpayers will see an increase. Now, there's one other caveat to this too. You can argue whether it's a transparent way of doing this or not, but the other thing that the state legislature did is that provided additional money to the school tax credit. That's something that you see on your property tax bill, but it's up in the corner. It's not tied to the levy itself that we do. And so they threw extra money at that. And it hasn't been determined exactly what Brown Deere is going to get, but it's estimated at about $300,000. Which would mean that it would look like our levy is going to go down $300,000. So people may seem like it is because the credit is coming after the fact. Again, it's hard to predict. I would never suggest to you, let's raise taxes by $300,000, hoping that the levy mitigates it. I don't want to play that game. So that's where we are with this, but it is something else it's another factor that's going to happen in the tax bill, which again, makes it hard for me to stand here today and tell everybody exactly what they're going to see on tax.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see, is there any way we can try to mitigate the cliff next year? This year.
We are taxing at the legal maximum right now, so.
Okay.
That's where we're at. Okay. And then again, showing you the property tax levies and how they have been historically. So you see, we're basically flat from last year, but in general, they've gone down. We are still lower than we were after the 2018 referendum. So we invested $25.9 million in our facilities, and our total tax levy is lower than it was after that project. All right, and then I'm just going to go through these real briefly. I have shared this with you, so I don't. If you do have specific questions about funds, feel free to mention it or throw them out there. We are looking right now because of, again, we have a lot of extra money this year. We have ESSER funding. We have this after-school grant. We have some other things. We're anticipating total revenue of $27,692,456, which is 7.5% increase. But again, some of that money is going to disappear next year, just disappear. So we have to be ready for that. From an expense standpoint right now, I have budgeted, I can't quite fit all this on the screen at once, so let me get a little smaller. Right now I'm budgeting our expenses at $27,547,000. So, which is also an increase. One of the things that I did this year, and I did explain it to you in an email, but I'll say it out loud too, just to, in the interest of transparency, is that, what I've noticed in my budgeting, again, this is my third budget now that I presented to you, is just recognizing the fact that some of our volatile revenue or local revenue, especially when you talk about things like co-curricular admissions, talk about rental revenue, renting of the field, things like that. It's kind of unsure as to what that money is supposed to be. And so in general, I kind of followed my predecessor's process where they didn't include much of that in the budget process. It was basically whatever we made. It was a nice extra cushion that we did. I'm trying to true us up a little more and be a little bit more reflective of what reality is. So I have added a few things back on the revenue side to kind of represent that. It's still being conservative. So you might see $75,000 in co-curricular revenue last year, because all the 22-23 numbers are current, and I don't still make each final adjustments, but it's basically what the year's going to end up as. But I might even put $40,000 in the revenue for this year just to have some pad, because I don't want to have a bunch of revenue that, again, being volatile, suddenly disappears and then I don't have that to address. So I'm trying to be cautious on that. The big thing here again is our open enrollment, $2.25 million. That is, hopefully we don't get to that point, but it's there for right now. We do have the voucher expense in there as well. So Fund 10 right now, I am setting up, right now it's at $145,000 surplus. I am hoping again we'll target to get at the 241 number at the minimum. And we'll continue to work on that. Again, we still have some open positions. So every month as we don't fill it, we have some savings. Again, some of that savings will be offset by other things. So I have to kind of watch that, but we'll continue to watch that as we go. And then I did want to share with you again, I know that I'm jumping ahead to the strategic plan, but one of the things in the strategic plan is to talk about fund balance. And so I'm reporting to you right now, again, not 100% of the audit is done, but we're looking at where we are this year of approximately 6.3 million, or we're projecting a fund balance of $6.3 million at the end of next year, which would be about 23%, which is doing very well. You do see how it's gone up considerably since 2018 when it was just over $3 million, now to be double that. Again, tonight you're going to approve a cash flow line of credit. We're not going to borrow necessarily. We may not cost us hardly anything for that, as opposed to the thousands of dollars we spent in interest in previous years. This also, again, can be used strategically, that if next year, if we see where the budget's coming in and we see where our expenses are, the board, again, can make a conscious decision, say, you know what, we've done really well the last few years. If we feel like we want to budget a little over and pull a little bit out of fund balance as part of our investment back into the district, we can do that. We're certainly well positioned to be able to do that for a few $100,000 or whatever the board would decide to do. So that'll be, again, part of that conversation that we'll do next year. Fund 21, we talk about, that's a very fluid fund, so we don't really pay a lot of attention to that. Special education is obviously important. Again, we're budgeting just over $4 million right now in special education. One of the things that is still up in the air is the special education categorical aid. Right now, I'm budgeting 31 cents on the dollar. The state did have a target of 33 cents on the dollar, but it's one of these some sufficient, or it's not a some sufficient. Basically, here's the pot of money, and they look to see what districts spend. So the reimbursement rate can change. So I'm being conservative and using 31 cents. It's possible that number will go over $1 million, so we may have a little bit extra revenue on that side. Also, Ms. Ramos and her team are doing a much better job in planning Medicaid revenue, so we expect to see that continue to increase year after year. So that's why you see a little bit of a bump there. But $53,000 in Fund 27 Medicaid was great last year. Fund 38 non-referendum debt doesn't exist. We have no debt in that sense. Our referendum debt service, again, we're not doing any defeasement this year. The $975,000 you see as an expense last year, we have that zeroed out. But we are seeing every year this does go down a little bit because of the fact that we did defease that debt. So our interest payment is a little lower than what it was scheduled to be. In fact, if you remember, I had the calculation wrong, which is why the annual meeting Fund 39 levy was slightly higher than this. So this is correct with the adjustment with the saved interest. And then just reminding ourselves of the debts that we have. We have 6 remaining debts, approximately $35.5 million. Our next debt comes off in 2026, and then it's going to be into the 2030s before we are able to pay anything else off. But doing very well, considering we were at $41.1 million just 3 years ago. Long-term capital trust fund. This is the fund for the capital improvements, which you will approve a capital improvement plan shortly in I think the next board meeting. We have about $560,000 in that fund. I don't have anything planned for expenses, but that's something we certainly may end up touching depending on what happens over the course of the next year. Fund 50, food service. Again, we have a lot of money sitting here, but it has to be used for food service. This is one thing, and I didn't mention it to you, but I did make a change from what you saw earlier over the weekend. The only thing I changed is I added an additional $400,000 in the capital expenditure line because we are talking about doing a remodel of the North Commons. Again, that money, and I'm also trying to show DPI that we're trying to spend it down. So that would be a significant drop in our fund balance. So that's budgeted. I don't have any numbers. We're still working on plans, and that'll be something we'll present to the board within the next few months if we decide to move forward with that. One brief thing is that we did make a change. I did explain it in the narrative here, but we found out we do have a Fund 73, so we had some things that went from Fund 10 to Fund 60 last year. Now they're going to Fund 73. Doesn't matter, but so I'll be reporting on Fund 73 from here on out. These are HRAs for retired employees. We don't make any contributions to them, but there is money that we're holding in an employee trust. So. And then Fund 80 Community Service. Again, this would be the fund that normally we do have a small tax levy of about $100,000. This year we are not going to levy anything because we have money coming in through the CLC program. That's from the federal government. The elementary school and middle school, the elementary school program remains in there, but we have our own revenue source. The middle school after school program, which was paid out of this last year, is moving to the after school grant with the high school. And that's all paid out of Fund 10 and a different grant. So we basically have relatively small amounts of expenses. I'm looking at about $62,000 in total. So we're just going to let the fund balance drop this year, and then we'll re-examine it next year to see if there's a reason to levy for it. One thing I am going to look into is, I don't want to levy in advance of it, but one thing we may be able to do is potentially use Fund 80 to help pay for, say, the tennis courts, because, those courts being the only public courts in the village, there's a community aspect to it. I'd have to figure out with DPI how I would be able to figure out the right proportion of what Fund 80 could potentially pay for, but that would be a way of using some of this money without having to impact operations. So we'll talk about that when we get closer to making a final decision on that larger project. Potentially. I mean, that's, maybe I could look at that too. I just, I'll check into that as well.
Did you mention Officer Oleg? I can't remember.
I did, yeah, that he's no longer in Fund 80, which is why that
Okay.
we're not really, we don't have much to expend. So last few pages are this is the DPI version of the budget. So this is what we will, we're just showing as the final numbers of what all the different functions are. And this will be the official budget pending your approval this evening. I will just say the next item, of course, is the tax levy. So if there's any concern about the tax levy or the budget, or you approve the budget, if you're not going to approve tax levy, just tell me now.
Yeah. We kind of talked about both of them.
We did, yeah, we covered both. So as long as I don't get surprised and it's a 6-0 vote on the budget, but a 0-6 version on tax levy. So are there any other questions regarding the budget or tax levy?
Very detailed report. We appreciate all the information given.
Well, again, if there's any questions, and it's an ongoing process, and we will be heavily involved this fall and winter planning for 2024-25.
Board members, questions? Outside of the obvious, us need to find some more money.
Right.
All right. Well, with that being said, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023-2024 budget as presented.
Thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. We have a motion. We have a second.
I will second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. Motion is made and seconded. We need to go to roll call vote.
Vito,
Aye.
Daniels, Ashley, aye. Bacon,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Walker, and Zach.
Aye.
So the vote is 6-0. for the approval of 23-24 budget as presented tonight by Kelly.
All right, thank you. There you go, Mr. Clemick. All right, so now let's go on to our item number E is the motion to approve the property tax to be levied. I think we pretty much went through that already. So would someone like to make a motion?
Dr. Vito, I'll make a motion to approve a property tax to be levied on behalf of the school district of Brown Deer in the amount of $8,231,065 in general fund 10, $2,880,412 in the referendum debt fund 39, for a total levy of $11,111,477 for the 2023-24 school year.
All right, thank you very much, Nicole. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
A second.
All right, thank you very much.
I will just share with you just before you do go on, just because this is the, as I was joking in the school kids official today, like this is my version of the nightmare where I don't go to school all year and then I am coming to the final exam and I don't know what's happening. I don't still have those. I still have those occasions, but this is the one where the school business manager puts the wrong number in for the tax levy and then everyone's mad at him. So again, this is the revenue limit worksheet, just showing you the calculations. Basically, that here was our the maximum revenue that we could do was the $8,231,065, which we put in. That is the number for the tax levy for the debt service, and then it comes into the $11,111,477. That is our matching number. So it's like more people to know, so that we all kind of live together, whatever.
All right, thank you very much. Oh, would someone like to make a? Oh, we already did. Okay, we had the motion. All right, any other questions? Hearing and seeing none, we need to go to roll call vote.
Vito,
Aye.
Daniels, Ashley, aye. Megan,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Walker, and Zick.
Aye.
And the vote is 6-0 for the approval of the property tax as presented.
All right,
Yeah, property tax.
all right, Kim. All right, so now let's go on to item number F, safety update. Oh, I think that was for. Oh. Well, all right, well, let's go ahead with safety update. Yeah, that was for. All right, just a couple quick things in relationship to safety update. Like we all know that the survey went out to the public to kind of figure out, what the individuals think about being able to have metal detectors, and 75% of the respondents that did came back and said that yes, they wanted the metal detectors. So that will be one of the things that the district will and the board will take into consideration. But then we'll also be looking at other alternative forms in relationship to safety. The other piece too is making sure that we talk about the other safety procedures and precautions that we've already put into place. Remember last year we had our safety initiative where we had, was it 8?
10.
All right, we had 10 safety initiatives that we did that actually really worked because we didn't have a lot more of the incidents that we had prior to us putting those together, and then plus some other safety things other safety initiatives that were put in this year with the having a facilities manager in place, facilities director in place to be able to ensure that some other things are actually happening from a safety standpoint. So with that, I just want to make sure that the district, we continue to put information out to all of our residents, letting them know about all of this different safety procedures and precautions that we're putting out there to be able to keep our staff, keep our students, keep our residents safe in relationship to if you're on the school grounds, and us being able to do that, something that we definitely take very, very, very serious when it comes to that, because that's one of the major roles in relationship to the school board is ensuring that, we have clean, safe facilities, and we want to enable to make sure that we keep our students and our staff safe. So that is a part in relationship to our safety update.
And that update was sent out to the families in the last communication. There was a link there, so everyone has it.
Okay. All right. And if there's anything else that we always do, I would always encourage our communications person, our administrator, to continue to get that information out in a in a timely manner to all of our residents and to our students, letting them know if there are any other safety procedures that we're putting in place or whatever to be able to keep everyone safe.
Is there
Yes.
anything that's on the webpage that we can share, you know, regarding those, you know, just so if they want to go there?
I know the plan part that we had put together, the initiatives, or those are actually out on the are on the website. So I think anything else, I'm not exactly sure if our communications person put that out there and stuff, but there's some things we can't.
Yeah,
Get
I
out there,
understand that,
but-
what we can, maybe
Right.
just so that parents can feel a little better about our active role in you know, creating a safe space for their kids and for our Brown Deer family. It would be nice to include whatever additional information that we have that we can share that they're privy to.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So a follow-up with Ms. Megan's question then. So the link to the Canva document that was in the letter, is that link on the website? Or do you-
I'll have a follow-up with Courtney and make sure it's there.
okay.
I know she put it on when we first did, remember when we first did it last year. I'll follow up with it to see if what that document, the most recent document, I updated it. You know, she was gone by then, so I have to work with her to make sure it's updated.
Okay.
So we definitely always want to make sure that information is on our website for our parents to be able to see exactly kind of some things that we've kind of put in place to increase safety. All right, let's go on to our next item, item G, approval of the strategic plan. Dr. Kelsey Brown?
Good evening, everyone. The executive summary was uploaded regarding the strategic plan. And again, I want to thank everyone who played a significant role in this process. We have Mr. Nuss, who teacher here with us tonight, who was with us from the beginning of this process in terms of understanding what a culture of change looks like, or working around the idea of continuous improvement. In addition to all the cabinet members, Ms. Macon and Ms. Smith were the representatives from the board who sat with us in those 5 sessions at Concordia initially. And thank you to Dr. Vito, Ms. Daniels, Ashley, and Ms. Robinson. We had separate individual meetings with them to make sure they could get their questions answered. And so this is the final version of the strategic plan. And this evening, we're asking for approval of the 2023-2028 strategic plan for the school district of Brown Deer.
Dr. Vito, I'd like to motion to approve the 2023 to 2028 School District of Brown Deer Strategic Plan as presented.
All right, we've got a motion. Got a second?
I will second Dr. Vito.
All right. Thank you very much for speaking. The motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion before we go to vote?
It had to do with math, so I gotta show. Yep, so page 5. The local assessment math. So I see for that one, that it was rated as a 1. That,
Well, what we'll do is, so we just completed the first window, Fast Bridge, and so Dana and Dr. Glass we're working on the first window, so that particular rating may fluctuate by the windows, because we take it 3 times a year, but this is where we were in the last window. So we'll update it when we do a presentation to the board with this next round of Fast Bridge data, which you all just discussed today. So we'll be bringing information to the board. So it may, or it may, our goal is to move it up. But I don't know what the data looks like yet. Okay, that was in the last window.
so, my only thing with that one is that if it is rated as 1, then there's probably more opportunities for improvement than just 1 or 2 things that we could do there to get that up.
You want to speak to that? Dr. Butler?
Yes, we're using the 3 high impact evidence-based strategies that is recommended by the U.S. Department of Education for math and for reading language arts. That's what, we're using
So those strategies will look the same.
to move the school forward. District forward.
Is there anything else
Yes,
to get above a one swoosh?
yes. So we're using those 3 strategies. We also have children who are participating in FAFSA, which is a tutoring program. We have teachers who are participating in our PL Day, the entire district, our SPED and regular ed teachers. We're doing work on backwards design where teachers are understanding the standards at their grade level and the skills that are related to each standard, doing their baseline assessment and then mapping out formative assessments, and then looking at how students are performing on those formative assessments, addressing those deficits, through formative assessments, and then a summative assessment. So we are working to the end of improving the data, and you will be very happy with the data that we have that we're going to present to you. It looks wonderful.
I would add
And IXL.
which is, and so the high school has part of their implementation plan. So they have a process in terms of minutes, the amount of minutes and time the students spend in it. They do at the middle school as well, working on better strategies and infusing that into their flex time. I can also say anecdotally that Sam Spelker, who's our STEM teacher, has a classroom next to my office, and she has students that go in there who don't want to go outside or participate in the lunchtime activities, and they are a quiet flex, I think, and they seek to work on that, even on their own independently. So you see kids that are in it, and I think that's a huge piece. So,
And that, thank you so much for that addition. And that backwards design work to which I just spoke, it will begin this week, Friday, doing PL days, and then 45 minutes twice per week doing their PLCs, and that's district-wide.
Okay, so then that was listed under student learning or professional learning, community status.
PLCs and the PLCs.
Yeah, I was just thinking that since that was only one, that there was opportunity to put more stuff there, and it seems like you are working on more things, but they weren't listed on the documents. So that was where my questioning came in.
Okay.
We just have that. Oh, am I looking at that? I'm sorry.
Actually, I wouldn't mind saying, the teachers that are here actually that had a part to do with this, you got anything you'd like to add?
We can take some of those.
Do you have a specific question that I could answer
No, anything you just like to add, period,
About the
about the process?
about strategic planning?
Yes.
I thought it was very beneficial. I thought the work that we did in concert with community members, parents of the district, with board members, with teachers that were selected by administrators at the elementary, middle, and high school. I thought we worked very well together to put this together. It was strategic. What I call it, strategic planning.
Yeah, it's one of the work that you're doing, like coming to life of the strategic plan in your PLC, by the professionals.
Sure. There's a lot there today. That's let me unpack real quick.
Okay.
Okay, so the strategic planning really gave us an opportunity to look at, along with Ted, and CESA 6, what works and what doesn't. And to look at what we're doing currently and identify, are these things moving us forward? And if they're not, why are we doing them? And then identifying the things that do work, shining a light on those, and then implementing those with fidelity. In the classroom currently, there are now, Dr. Glass, are you referring to like QAR? Are you? Yeah. So currently in the classroom, I can really only speak to 6th grade. But currently in the classroom, we've been receiving PD from Claire, who is the
literacy coach at the middle school. And she's very knowledgeable, and Dr. Glass has sat in and she's given her expertise as well. What we're looking at is QAR, question answer relationship. What kind of questions are we asking students? Are these like questions that are just in the text? Or are these questions that require higher level thinking? Are these questions that allow us to go back into the text and pull evidence, not from one source, but from multiple sources, to create a claim or to formulate a claim statement and support that with evidence, and then take it the next step and provide elaboration and explanation as to why we believe those things. So today we talked about QAR. We've also talked about close reads, which was something that we started and talked about near the beginning of the year, but we've been starting to implement it slowly. But what we're doing essentially, and what I told the kids is, really this is about microscopic work, right? We all have like that monocle or that microscope when we want to dig deep into literature or informational text. What are we looking at? What are we identifying? When we dig deep into the text, are we just getting like a glance over of it? Maybe that's what we do first. Maybe we just kind of try to understand, maybe even summarize what the piece of literature or the informational text is about. And then we go back and we start looking at things like structure. Like, why did the author structure this text this way? Is there a purpose? We look at vocabulary, not just how vocabulary is used in context, but also like, why these particular words? We have discussions in class about how authors are very deliberate in the words that they choose. And these authors who write these wonderful pieces of literature, they have a wealth of knowledge and an encyclopedic mind for vocabulary. So why are they choosing these words? Why are they choosing a word like devour? Right? Why do they do that? And so we really dig deep in that. And then the third strategy, Dr. Glass, I'm having a brain fart. Grace, which is actually something that I started with sixth grade at the beginning of the year. So every week when students are reading their literature, they have a question for the day. And it's a higher level thinking question that they have to answer. They have one every day. And then at the end of the week, we allow students to get together and share and receive. Like, what were you thinking? What was I thinking? Like, you and I would sit down for a book club, right? We read a book, we sit down, we just have a chat. So we allow students to have a chat to solidify their understanding, and then they have to write an essay. Some weeks the teacher chooses, this is the question you need to write your race essay on. Or sometimes we give them two options, you have to choose one of these two. And really what they have to do is RACE. They have to restate the question, right? If I said, what'd you have for dinner? You'd have to say, last night for dinner I had. Right? We have students who are answering questions like, what did you have for dinner? And just say, lasagna. So, I mean, yes, you're correct, but what we want students to do is start to reframe the question in the form of an answer. Then the A part is answering that question. The C part is citing evidence, pulling from the text. And then the E part is elaboration and explain. What does this mean? Why is this important? And so that kind of, the RACE also plays into the QAR, the question-answer relationship. What kinds of questions are we answering? What kind of rigor are we expecting from the students? We've seen some really good growth. Chayvin and I have given students 5 rating essays, and then we just had a unit assessment on characters changing, and they had to write an essay about one of our essential questions about how characters change. They had to identify how the character was in the beginning and provide evidence. They had to tell us about how the character was at the end of the story and provide evidence. And then they had to identify the change agent. What precipitated that change? Was it a person? Was it something? Was it an event? What happened in that character's life that changed them from who they were to who they are going to be moving forward? And so with Dr. Glass and with Claire, and with the these strategic moments that we're taking with students, we're already seeing real big growth. We partner that with IXL. We take a look at certain skills, like, okay, we're working on character traits right now. So we pair that with an IXL skill. And yesterday, Ms. Chayvin and I were informed that our 6th grade students have made the most gains in the middle school with the least amount of questions having answered in IXL. So what we're doing is we're pairing the IXL, those skills identified in IXL that students need, with the work that we're doing in classroom, so those things are working in concert. And so we're seeing just a really good amount of growth. I'm actually like nerding out because I'm really excited about it.
That passion, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, kids are growing. Like, who doesn't get excited about that? When you read about characters changing and then students can apply that to their own life and they start to see themselves changing, they start to see their academic acceleration. Like, who doesn't get excited for that? So, students have made a lot of growth. I love working in the middle school. I think Mr. Young and Ms. Kirchman are doing a wonderful job of helping us implement, providing a culture for student learning, for teacher growth, along with Dr. Glass, Claire, like I said, Kara with the tech support, and helping us implement IXL. I don't know, things are just working really well right now. I know that was really long-winded.
Thank you.
Heard that in sixth grade, jeez.
Yeah, so things are really good and we want them to continue, of course.
All right.
We don't want those gains to be washed out. So.
Very nice, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So
All right.
I see what you're saying. I'll take those strategies across both content areas. I'll put them within literacy. I'll take people count that. I'll take that.
All right, so technically we need with the revision, so we really need to redo the motion with revisions.
Sure. From the amendment.
Yeah, for the amendment. All right,
Motion.
so the motion of Dorothea.
Okay, and what is the just say amendment?
Right, friendly amendments.
Okay, Dr. Vito, I'd like to motion to approve the 2023 to 2028 School District of Brown Deer Strategic Plan with amendments.
Amendments as discussed.
As discussed.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Bacon. I got a motion. Do I have a second?
Ms. Peterson?
I think I second.
Ms. Peterson, second. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, raise hand and/or aye. Any opposed? Hearing seen none, motion carries 6-0. Dr. Kelsey Brown, we have a new strategic plan that's in place.
All right.
And the fireworks.
There we go. And you know what? And now I remember the other part, the reason why I actually put safety update. Because remember we were asking.
You forgot about me.
No, you know what? Because when they caught me on guard, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. What is it? And then also was to give us further updates in relationship to some of the costs or whatever have you, or anything else that you figured out for safety. Matt.
I'll talk about it later. I ain't saying nothing.
Okay, so as far as safety is concerned, I just wanted to give a couple of new updates. We have now 3 new ALICE trainers in our district, one at elementary, one at the high school, and one at the middle school. I'd like to give a great thank you to Mr. Oliver, Mr. Tucker, and Mr. Sandowski for doing this round of training that was yesterday and today. I'm hoping to have a conversation with them tomorrow or into this week to see how the training was so that we can reflect on it. The next line of training for trainers is going to be in January, which I'm hoping to get a few more people on board with that one so that we can have more than just a couple.
So the ones who were trained yesterday and today, they'll be training other staff?
Correct. And I'm hoping to implement that at not this coming PL date, the following PL date for I believe it's like 12 or 13 remaining staff members that were not trained last time. So all of our staff minus 12 people, I believe, have been trained.
Okay, so all of our administrative staff, all the rest of the different staff have all been trained. Okay.
Yep. And by the end of the month, we should have all of the online training done by all of our staff.
those who haven't, I will put out an email to give them a friendly reminder to finish the online training portion of everything.
3 people made the CMJ4 news, that was yesterday. So Mr. Tucker, Mr. Oliver, Mr. Sadowski are on the TMJ4 snippet about the Alice training. So I'll send that out to you all.
All right.
I am continuing to look into the other resources out there for weapons detections, metal detectors. Currently, right now, I'm looking into 2 companies for the AI walkthroughs, 2 companies for metal detectors, and 1 AI camera system. Currently. And then shy of that, I'm talking to our current security system, Sonatrol, into looking on different options that we could have for securing our doors. The doors that we don't always monitor every day, all day, to see what we can do as far as arming those to make sure that people are staying in and not out. So if someone does open up a door that's not always monitored, that we would be able to know immediately and send someone in that general direction. After that, I will remind the board that on November 9th, Case High School in Racine is going to be doing their little demo for the Evolve system, which is the weapon detection system. I would like it if our entire board wouldn't be able to make it that day.
Do we know what time at?
It is at, I believe, 2:00 in the afternoon.
On the 9th?
On the 9th, correct.
Thursday. And where is it gonna be held?
It's going to be held at Case High School.
No, so I gotta be in Racine on Tuesday.
That's in Racine, correct.
You'll send that information to us.
I can, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and I was at the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra last week, and they had either it was the Evolve detections or one that looked just like it.
Yeah, their competitor is called Extract One, which is another company that I have my name out to right now currently. I'm waiting for the information to come in. So it was either the Evolve system, which I do believe that is in that system. So you did walk through the AI system, which as you saw, was probably pretty flawless.
Yeah, and they had their logos on it and all that, so,
Correct.
yeah.
That's at Park or Case?
Case. I also want to make mention that our high school and middle school are now doing random locker searches throughout the middle school and high school. Those will be executed by our principals or our APs. So that's another add-on to how we are trying to keep our school safe.
Is that in conjunction with Officer Olick as well too?
Officer Oleg is to stay out of this unless there is an actual situation.
And then, for a couple things. So for the detection systems that you're looking at, have you started to get pricing yet?
Yes, ma'am. I got, 1 second here.
Is there a range of what they're looking like?
Where he gave us.
I just got an updated pricing for the Evolve system for having 3 single entry points. Our initial cost, just to have it installed, would be $282,679, with an annual fee of the first year being $84,229, and the second, third, and fourth year being $66,150.
Are the others around that?
I'm still waiting to hear back from, their competitor. And as far as metal detectors are concerned, those are basically, you buy the system and then it's just the manpower to be able to go through.
Yeah, because part of that, when we started looking at that or whatever, was the cost was so much for the personnel part to where, you know, when at first I cringed when I heard the number come out of your mouth, and then all of a sudden when I thought about what it was gonna cost us to just have the regular detectors and then having to staff it, it almost ended up about the same. So I don't know, we got a lot to think about.
And then the other piece is the additional security officer, were we able to,
The additional,
what do we call it?
additional
Safety
security,
personnel.
which when talking to Racine and talking to the Evolve people and the people at Allegiance, which is the people that help do the AI part of this all. Basically, you know, we could train in-house people being like, to be like the greeters, so to speak, to be like the first ones. And then we could actually only have to really staff only 3 additional people.
No, I mean, in addition to the folks we currently have
Correct.
on campus, before any of this even potentially gets implemented, we have the one safety.
Yes, we have Ms.
Personnel.
Kimber. Correct.
We look at potentially the cost of another if they have availability through the same company.
It would basically be, I believe we pay,
50,000.
We pay 50 right now.
$50,000.
yeah, 50,000, so it'd be an additional 50,000 just for another one per.
Do they have capacity among their staff? Do we
I
know?
believe that they do, but that's something that I can ask them and bring back to the board.
All right, thanks, man. All right, I guess my brain did turn back on about the safety update. Okay. All right, so now let's go on to item number 8, approval of the resolution authorizing the taxable tax.
Taxable tax and revenue. Yeah, so this is the line of credit. I did share the documents with you on board docs. Several of you have already signed all the documents, so. Again, we did put this out to bid this year and ended up selecting Tri-State National Bank as our vendor. We do have some depository accounts with them, with our activity funds and food service. So they are willing to step up and be a partner with us for relatively little cost. Again, if we don't use the funds, there is no cost for us other than the initial setup cost we spend putting up the Corals and Brady. So they have gone through the process. We would do the, if you approve it tonight, we have all the documentation. We would close on November 1st, and then we'd have access to money shortly thereafter.
And that's the whole thing that you had talked to us about before, with that line credit. And if we don't use it, costs us very minimal. We did have it. And if we do need it, it's there. So with that being said, would someone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing a taxable tax and revenue anticipation promissory note for cash flow purposes in an amount not to exceed $1 million as presented.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ashley. Motion made, seconded by Ms. Macon. All right, let's go into roll call vote.
Vito,
Aye.
Daniels, Ashley, aye. Macon, aye. Peterson, aye. Robinson, aye. Walker, absent. And Zach, aye. Washington.
All right. All right,
Thank you.
And the vote is 6-0.
this motion carries. All right, so Mr. Clemick, you have a promissory note? Well, you got a thing for $1 million, just if we need it, please say we don't. I greatly appreciate it.
I don't want to be the one that, has to go speaking couch cushion, look for a election.
Hey, you'd be surprised what happens. You'd be surprised how much you might find. All right, let's go on to our item 6, our board reports, SWSA and legislative update. Dr. Kelsey Brown, so we actually kind of talked a little bit in relationship to the initiatives that she put together with Dan Canoto to be able to see about the teacher pipeline. Then also we have,
Good night.
good night, appreciate you guys for coming. Then also, there was something from SWSA, they're talking about like the 9 types of active shooter scenarios on your campus could face. So you'll be able to, if you wanted to, I think I forwarded that to everyone to be able to look at that. And then, wait a minute, there we go. I'm going off the top of my brain now in relation to this. One thing was, so the vote is going to be happening on Thursday. So where they'll be doing votes for certain things. One will be about American Indians and being able to talk about curriculum. Native American dress will be one of the items that will be going forward. Another item that will be going forward is school districts being able to have teachers K-5 through 5th grade with initial educators licenses to be able to do that, as well as for district administrators that do not have the license to be able to see if a district can hire them if they got the plan going. Superintendent, district administrator, superintendent. So those are a couple of things that actually will be going in front of commission on Thursday.
Work test, exemption, that one called?
No, I didn't see that one for that one Thursday.
Okay.
All right, and that is my update. All right, so Wasby.
My response is really brief. The Wisconsin State Education Convention will be opening up its registration on November 1st. So I want to put that out there. And then secondly, the school district election schedule is out. I have it here. There are some important dates. I noticed that Donna noted one of those important dates that's upcoming for December 22nd, 2023, the deadline for incumbents to file notice for non-candidacy is due at 5 p.m. on December 22nd.
Notice for non-candidates.
If you're saying
For incumbents.
if you're not gonna do it, you're not gonna do it. Who's up this year? Who's up?
They're gonna need that and there's some gonna go.
So what's the deadline for if you are?
All right, that's.
When is the first? It's always the first.
It's January 2nd.
It's always the same time, but it's always the same every year.
Okay, it was just kind of weird to hear the emphasis on the not running. That's
Well, yeah,
That's the first deadline. that's
Because
coming
if
up.
someone doesn't, if you don't do the non-candidacy and then you don't end up filing by January 2nd, then it gets extended 3 days.
Yeah.
Friday, that's that rule.
I think that the January 2nd date is a holiday. So
So what we're gonna say is that if you want to do it, you better do it before for Christmas.
we would like to have the information.
Well, the 22nd, we're not,
It's going on.
the district's closed on the 22nd, because that's our.
They always
It's all together.
Yeah,
So December 1 through January 2nd, if you're filing, it needs to be done. Drop dead date is the 2nd and we all know that
Close.
Yeah, it's a holiday.
It's a holiday,
so
if I don't have to get there,
right. We would like to do it before, anyway, we don't.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Ashley. Ed Foundation report.
Not a whole lot happening with the Ed Foundation just yet. The fall appeal letter did go out, to start to collect funds for the scholarship for this school year. And we have a new treasurer, for the board. That's all that's going on right now.
All right. Thank you very much. And Park and Rec, well, Lisa's not here. She didn't forward anything, but I don't think Park and Rec, they don't meet until, don't they meet like in 2 weeks? I think they meet in like 2 weeks or whatever. So nothing, update from Park and Rec. All right. With that being said, let's go on to item number 7, our board calendar, board planning calendar. The 25th is the choir concert in the MAC at 7:00. The 27th is a professional learning day, so no school. November 15th is the band concert in the MAC at 7. The 17th is professional learning, so no school. The 23rd and 24th, we're off for Thanksgiving holiday. Then the 29th is the orchestra concert in the MAC. And then December 22nd, deadline for incumbents to file notice of non-candidacy by 5 p.m. All right. With that being said, all right, would someone like to make a motion for us to be able to go into closed session?
Dr. Vito, I'd like to make a motion to enter into closed session to discuss administrator evaluation, to consider strategy for crime detection or prevention pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes 19.851 C.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. Motion has been made. You have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bacon. Motion has been made and seconded. All right, Ms. Ashley?
Vito,
Aye.
Daniels, Ashley, I, Macon, I, Peterson, I, Robinson, I, Walker, and, Sid Washington. Aye. And the motion carries 6-0 to go into closed session
At 7:50 p.m. All right. With that being said, I know we will not be coming back in the open session because it's not for us to be able to vote to bring them back in. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen that have been with us, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to participate in the District of Brown Deer School Board meeting. We really appreciate you taking your time out. And we hope to see you at our next board meeting next month for our open session. All right. All right. Good night. Good evening.